Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney and I am here with my part 2 of my Sew a Blazer with me. I think it's going to be 3 parts. So I'm going to show you all the innards. Obviously the jacket's inside out right now and no lining. And then part 3 will be the whole jacket together and I'll kind of talk you through all the different bits and pieces of it, show it to you on my son. Obviously he's not had it on yet. Well, he has, but in for me to check fit. So far everything's looking really good, so that's what we want. All right, so I'm just going to kind of talk you through the interfacing and all of the structure parts of the blazer. Now this is a men's blazer. This is Vogue 9097. It is for a tuxedo style blazer or sport coat or jacket, whatever you want to call it. The interfacing is a little bit different on a men's jacket just because the front structure here goes down further because they don't have boobs. But on a women's jacket, that usually stops right above the bust line and comes down. So that's really the only difference. You want that above the dart, basically, on a woman's jacket. So it just looks a little bit different. I cut my jacket fronts. I showed you those in part 1. I'll pop a link up to the part 1 video if you'd like to hear more, because I used pre-done parts. And I had said that they were pad stitched. They're not technically pad stitched. We did with fusibles what pad stitching does to a classically tailored blazer. So this is not a classically tailored blazer. I've used fusibles in here. So there is no pad stitching, but and there's, in essence, there's kind of, the different layers of fusing and Demet here with the horsehair canvas have all been attached with zigzag stitches to give it some structure. But I did my roll line with fusibles, and my lapel is all just fusibles. And I have this tucked under and I'll talk you through that in a minute. So my plan was for today, actually today I was going to walk you through my travel wardrobe, what I'm taking with me to my trip to Italy, but that's going to be Friday's video. So stay tuned. I flip-flopped the 2 videos just for some scheduling stuff behind the scenes. Also, I've only put shoulder pads and sleeve heads into one side. So I wanted to show you the difference, and I'm going to show you the coat inside out and also right side out. So you can see what a real big difference the shoulder pad and sleeve head makes to a sleeve. It's pretty amazing. And these aren't horribly thick shoulder pads either, but we'll talk about those here in just a second. All right. So this pattern did come with a decent amount of pieces with interfacing and all that kind of thing. I did have to draft a couple of pieces, I think 3 pieces that I like to have in a jacket, and I'll walk you through that here in just a second. But other than that, the jacket does come with a lot of different interfacing pieces and that sort of thing. Let's start with the front of the jacket, and then we'll just work our way around the jacket, and I will zoom in. I'll crop it to where I can zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about as we go. So with the front of our jacket, the jacket is a jacket front, and then there's this under collar that gets sewn in. It's a little different than the facing. The facing is a little bit more shawl collar-ish, and that the facing goes all the way around, and it's the center back, and then you've got kind of the points where all that gets sewn in. I've already sewn the lining and facing together, so it's ready to go into this jacket as soon as I get my other shoulder pad and sleeve head in. To start off, the fronts of the jackets are completely interfaced. So I've completely interfaced them with that medium fusible that I talked about in part 1. I've put a bound buttonhole, this is the back, a little bound buttonhole here in the front. I did the bound buttonhole the way the pattern tells you to do the bound buttonhole, which was a way I'd never done a bound buttonhole before, just to try something new. I'm not crazy about it. I think I'll go back to my old way next time, but I tried it, so... The other thing, I have used a silk dupioni for this jacket. Silk dupioni is shiny and it's a tight weave, which makes tailoring a lot of times uses a lot of molding of the fabric. So when you're using wools or even linens where you have a looser weave so things can kind of mold a little bit better, dupioni does not have those does not have those qualities. So it shows imperfections a lot easier because it's a shiny fabric and because it's so tightly woven, things don't get hidden in the fibers as much. So it's not a perfectly done jacket. Will I make another dupioni jacket? I don't know that I will. Will I make another jacket for my son? Yes, I would definitely make him another jacket in the future. Probably not another silk one though. I mean, maybe if you begged, but I'm much more comfortable with wool and linen and a little bit looser weave fabrics that mold a little bit better, especially with putting in sleeves, but I digress. So anyway, the fronts are completely interfaced. I went ahead, and it's kind of hard to tell, but my welt pocket, or my top pocket here, we'll look at it in the front here in a second. I put that in the front of the jacket first, my bound buttonhole, and then my welt pockets here at the hips have both been put in just with the regular facing. Once those were in, I sewed these jacket fronts that I got from Walwack into the front. I cut them right at the roll line. So I cut those to where the horsehair canvas ends right at the roll line, and then I just curved it up to where it came up above my pockets. I didn't want it to interfere with that, and I didn't want it to really interfere with my bound buttonhole much. So I kind of curved, well, it covers the bound buttonhole, but I kind of curved it up because this is where the jacket is going to roll and turn over on itself. So I wanted that free. And actually, I'll probably go and cut this out of the seam allowance right there, or sew it and then trim it down. You'll notice around here, I've trimmed this down right along the stitching line to get as much of that out of the seam allowance as possible. With my roll line, I used fusible stay tape, and what I did is I fused it up at the top, and then I cut that piece of stay tape about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch shorter than the actual roll line, and then I fused it at the top and I fused it at the bottom, and then I kind of eased in that little excess and started fusing all the way around. That is what causes the lapel to want to go to the outside. And then I hit that with steam. I did not press it. I didn't put the iron down on it. I just hit it with steam to encourage it. You don't want any hard creases with tailoring. You want it to be a nice soft roll. Now, this hard creases much more so than like a wool or even a linen. I mean, it presses really well, but it just hitting it with steam puts much more of encourages it much more than I feel like my wools and that sort of thing. But I also have the undercollar here going towards the front. Again, we'll flip the jacket around here in a second so you can see. All right, on the side, before we get to the sleeve, on the side, I did draft a piece to go here on the underarm. I just want my whole arm side to be interfaced. So I did draft a little piece to go here under the underarm. The pattern did come with the hem interfacing. I also stuck interfacing here where the welt pocket crosses the seam line. I don't know, there was no interfacing that went there, and that does need to be interfaced. So I don't know why that was missing. I mean, the front whole jacket is interfaced, so that was properly done, but you need some interfacing to come over onto this side piece here to help support that. We'll talk about the sleeve next. So this sleeve obviously doesn't have the sleeve head or the shoulder pad in it, but I have fused some interfacing. There's a piece, it's actually the sleeve head piece, but I fused it to the top of the sleeve cap. That just gives it nice support, especially when we get that sleeve head and shoulder pad in there. It just supports the top part of the sleeve there. Oh, I want to talk about pinking too. And then my interfacing, my miter has already been sewn here at my hem, but there is interfacing there at the hem of the sleeve. And then I did draft interfacing to go onto the under sleeve as well. Again, I just want that whole arm side to be interfaced on both sides so that nothing stretches out over time. Any piece of interfacing that ends in the body of the garment, such as this top part of the sleeve, or even where the interfacing goes up into the garment, like at the hems, I hit those with the pinking shears. The reason for this is that when you fused everything, if you have just a straight line, that is often, you can see that through on the right side of the fabric. It's just not very attractive. So if you just trim that those edges off where they go into the body of the jacket with pinking shears. I did the same with the horsehair canvas. I hit that with pinking shears. So unless the interfacing goes all the way, covers the whole piece, obviously, then you're fine. But anything where it's in the body of the jacket, I did hit that with pinking shears to soften that line so that you can't see it through the right side. Dupioni is thinner fabric as well, and so I really didn't want that to happen. All right, on the back, I also drafted a back stay. So interfacing here at the back shoulders, that's just an area that can easily get stretched out. So I did interface that with the medium fusible, and I think that that's going to work really, really well to help keep that from stretching out. Again, my hems, this came with the pattern. This did not. I drafted this piece. This piece came with the pattern, and yeah, the miter has not been sewn yet for the bottom part of this jacket, nor has the hem been pressed up yet, but I'm sure that's coming. All right, and then with this sleeve, I have got a sleeve head in. This is perfect for giving you a little bit of structure there in the sleeve. Again, I'll turn this right side out here in a second so you can see. I have the shoulder pads sewn in, all to give nice structure to that part of the sleeve. And then I have trimmed down between notches. I've trimmed my seam allowance here at the underarm in half, but just right here under the arm. So kind of between those notches, the front and back notches there, where it's 1-to-1, so that everything sits nice and easy to move. You know, nothing's catching on anything else. And I think that's it. I think that's it for, that's it, you know, just so much. But that is it for the interfacing and the structure that I've put inside the jacket. Obviously the facing and stuff is all interfaced, and I haven't done the back of the bound buttonhole into the facing yet. I'll do that once I've attached the facing to the front of the jacket. So that will come, and I'll show you that in part 3. But let me real quick switch the jacket to right side, and we can look at the difference that the shoulder pad and sleeve head make. All right, so here's the jacket right side out. And as you can see, this also wrinkles. This is going to be interesting to see how this packs, because it also wrinkles like crazy. It does take steam well, though, so hopefully putting it in a steamy shower is going to fix all of that. But we have got with the jacket, I want to show you the difference that the shoulder pads and sleeve heads make. As you can tell, this side of the jacket has the shoulder pad and sleeve head. This one is missing all of that, and this sleeve looks awful. God, this Dupioni too, like there's not gathering, but the easing in of the sleeve there, it just makes it look wrinkly, and it's just the fabric. Oh well. It is what it is. But I'm pretty happy with the way this is coming together. He's happy with it, so that is all that matters. But you can see a big difference, and a lot of this is going to get filled in with the sleeve head and shoulder pad to make that look a ton better. I mean, I'm still getting a little bit of it's just the rumples there of the sleeve, but you know, it is what it is. We've got our welt pockets, and I have these basted shut right now, if you can see the hot pink thread. That's so I can easily pick out. I've just basted those welts together. Double welt pockets, and then we've got the nice top pocket here as well. All of them are functional, so he can, oh yeah, and I've got a little interior pocket in the lining as well, but you'll see that next part. So everything is now encouraged to go to the right side, so obviously when I put the facing on, this will be matching fabric. And look really, really nice. So there we have it. We've got our jacket on my female form. This jacket's a little big for her, for Lena, but you can kind of get a good idea. It's actually not terribly big. He's a small guy. But kind of get an idea of what the jacket's going to look like. And hopefully, if you are a little nervous about, this does feel lovely though, if you are nervous about making a blazer, maybe just seeing all the bits and pieces together have kind of eased some of that. So maybe this is something that you're willing to give a try. It's not hard. Is it a lot of pieces? Absolutely. Does it take forever? Absolutely. But it's not hard. Nothing about it's hard. If you break the steps up into just little sizable chunks, a little each day, over the course of many days, you will be able to have a finished blazer. I'm sewing this in the course of about 3 days. Not all day every day, but about 3 days. But they're pretty intense days as far as sewing is concerned. So, but it doesn't have to be that way if you're not working on a timeline. You could take your time. All right, so there we have it. This is part 2 of sewing a blazer with me. Like I mentioned, maybe on Sunday even, I will have the 3rd part up, and it will be the finished of his jacket. So I think I'm going to do that instead of a Sunday sew along. So make sure and check back then to see the final jacket and see him wearing it. And then I'll be back on Friday with what I'm going to be traveling with, what my little capsule travel wardrobe. Spoiler alert, I did not get the everyday things sewn that I wanted to get sewn. This took me longer. All right, I will see you guys then. Bye-bye.